Look at that. What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about the top 3 reasons why I use Braid-to-Leader on almost all of my rods. Braid-to-Leader is something that's come up on a lot of YouTube videos on, is it a good thing to do or not? And I think it definitely depends on what type of fishing you do and who you are. Are you a weekend warrior, kind of like myself? Are you a tournament angler? Are you a professional? And I think the opinion on Braid-to-Leader is definitely going to change depending on your level of intensity when it comes to fishing. So the number one reason why I use Braid-to-Leader on almost all of my setups is it really helps upscale your rods. This is a $130 Dobbins Fury rod. There's definitely rods that are way more expensive than this and much cheaper, but it's middle of the road at best. But when you put that main line that's braid on there, you really help bring up the sensitivity of your entire setup. And I noticed with having no stretch in that main line that it really helps a lot. And so it is definitely on all of my finesse setups, and I would say that is the number one reason why I use Braid-to-Leader is the improved sensitivity. So the second reason why I use Braid-to-Leader on everything is the casting distance. It's undeniable that braid casts further than mono or fluorocarbon. It just does. And when you get to reach out there a little bit further, I feel like you cover more water better, you're more effective, and you're really able to cover more water. That's the biggest thing, right? We're trying to maximize our bait time in the water. We want to make sure we're staying in the strike zone long enough. And so when you increase your casting distance, I think everything gets a little bit better. So that's reason number 2. All right, reason number 3 is this one starts to come into play depending on how serious you are when it comes to fishing. Are you a professional, or you're a tournament angler, or are you just someone out on the neighborhood lake trying to catch fish every now and then? And that's going to be always having fresh line on your reel. Now, I'm not talking about the main line. I'll buy a spool. I'll spool this thing up, and it will be good all year. So I'm not really worried about the braid holding up all year. It's really when it comes to the fluorocarbon. And if you probably do use straight fluoro or mono, and it doesn't take very long for it to get a crazy amount of memory in it. You start to worry about, is it still good? So you want to swap it out. And you don't really have to worry about that a whole lot anymore. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm using 15, 20 feet a leader on any given setup. And if I think it's no good anymore, I just cut it off and put on the 15, 20 feet a leader. I don't think about the cost. It doesn't take me a lot of time. I just tie it on there and go. And all of my rods, I'm 100% confident in the line that's on all of my rods right now. And that's really important when it comes to a weekend guy. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time maintaining my gear unless I absolutely have to. I'm working all week. I'm fishing after work, so I come home, grab the boat, we go out. And I don't want to have to worry constantly on, I got to respool 2 or 3 rods, I have to order line, I have to do this and that. I order main line for everything probably once a year. I have 2 or 3 spools of leader at home, so I can swap it out. It takes me 5-10 minutes. I can swap out multiple rods, and we're gone. And I think that's the best one. It's tough to rank these top 3, but I would say that's definitely third. But always having fresh line on your reels is definitely worth the peace of mind for me. Now I'm going to go into detail a little bit more on how I use it. So the main line I like to use, this is Power Pro, 20-pound line on this spinning reel. I think I'm going to try 15 or 10 next time. The reason why I want to step down a little bit is when you get a lot of wind, that braid will catch wind and it puts a big bow in your line. So if at all possible, you want to minimize the diameter of your line even more. And I think I'm going to try a little bit liner line next time. But again, this is 20-pound high vis. And why do I use high vis? So when I cast this guy out and it's windy or it's whatever, I can definitely, that braid will float on top of the water. And so there's a bunch of line laying on top of the water, and I'll show it to you here. And I can definitely see when that's on bottom all the time, even if it's windy. And that's a big deal when you're finesse fishing and you're trying to fish bottom and keep bottom contact and it's windy and you're not sure if you're there or not. I could drop my rod tip, make sure it's good, and I'm gone. And I'd say that's a big one. The other part of that is detecting bites that are super mushy. And sometimes you'll pick up on your line and it feels kind of odd. But with that braid, with that high vis line, I can watch it move. And I've definitely caught fish multiple times when I go, it's way over there now. And it's windy and you can't really see it all that well. So that's probably another main factor there when it comes to it. So the other thing I want to talk about is the actual leader length itself. 2 years ago when I started using Braid-to-Leader, I was using about 1 to 8 feet, 9 feet of leader. And I really didn't like it going into the spool, and I was concerned about backlashing and yada yada yada. And so I ran about an 8-foot leader. And when you're drop shotting and stuff, you can definitely go through a lot of leader when you retie. And I was finding myself really stressing out about how much leader I had. And so after I got done worrying about that, I decided one day that I'm just going to go ahead and run a much longer leader. This rod has probably a 20-foot leader on it. And here, I'll show you. And this is going to go all the way in to the spool. So here's my knot, right? And I'm still out there, I'm still out there, and now it's to the rod tip. That's at least 20 feet. And I run it all the way into the spool, and there's a couple of reasons for it. First one is I get a huge amount of leader. Yes, does that decrease your overall sensitivity? Absolutely. But I'm using fluorocarbon, which doesn't have a lot of stretching. So I don't really worry about retying and breaking off and stuff like that with that big leader. That really helps my stress level and me not worry about it. The other part of that is when I'm reeling it in, you know, everybody's worried about connection knot. Your connection knot's gonna fail, you got another failure point in your line. True, no doubt about it. Every time you tie a knot, that's another potential failure point. I can't tell you the last time I broke a connection knot. That said, when I'm reeling this guy in, here's my knot, I'm already on the spool. So if I'm fighting a fish and they're going to turn and run at the boat or something like that, my knot is on the spool and it's wrapped over a few times. I'm not worried, I'm not really stressing that knot anymore. So I get another few cranks when I get that fish close to the boat of not worrying about the connection knot really at all. So that's definitely something to consider when you're talking about leader length, is try a longer leader. And you're going to worry about, well, I use bait casters. Yes, me too. And you're probably thinking, well, that's great on a spinning rod, but what about a bait caster? So here's this one. Here's my knot. There it is. This is a 7-2-to-1 SLX. So here's my knot right there. It's a blood knot. It's not a crazy FD knot. It's going to go in, and now it's to the top. And here, I'll cast right through it. No problem. I never have a problem with it. I like to run it all, again, same reasons. I run a long leader on this. I don't worry about breaking it off. And it's wrapped around the spool when I'm fighting a fish close to the boat, and they decide to turn and run or something, it's not going to pop that connection knot. What else about Braid-to-Leader? The other aspect of it is really the cost point, right? This main line has been on here for like a year. I don't worry about it. I buy 2 spools of fluorocarbon. That leader lasts me, that regular filler spool lasts me all year, and life is good. So cost definitely plays into it. I don't like just wasting money online, and so that's what I run. So let me talk about the cons a little bit. You do have to maintain your leader, obviously. There's times if you keep breaking off, you're fishing rocks or shell or something, and you're breaking off all the time, and you have to retie, you may want to go to a full mainline fluorocarbon or something like that, so you don't have to worry about it. The other part is the connection knot. You're going to have to learn a new knot for sure. I started with the blood knot. I played with the FG knot, which I will undoubtedly say is a better knot. However, I can't tie it consistently. I've tried, my fingers won't do it. It's like trying to do my daughter's hair. My fingers just won't do it. And I'd probably benefit from having someone show me that knows how to do it. But this is a regular blood knot. You probably can't see it, but there it is. It goes through guides just fine. It goes through micro guides just fine. I have a couple micro guide rods, which aren't my favorite, but it goes through them. And I find that the blood knot is super consistent. It's easy to look at and see that you have it tied right. I can tie it on the boat no problem. It doesn't take 3 arms to do it. So that's what I use. I use about 5 or 6 wraps on it, and make sure you lubricate a lot when you cinch that knot down. And again, it's been fine. I can't remember the last time I broke off a connection knot. We'll talk about what kind of leader I use. I use Sunline FC Sniper. I can spend a little bit more money on the line, on the fluorocarbon, because I don't go through a lot of it. So I don't really have to compromise there a whole lot. It's like 20 bucks for a filler spool, 24 bucks. Again, it lasts me months, if not all year, depending on which one. I use 16 pound primarily for like this rod here, for my Texas rig rods or my chatterbait rods or whatever. And for my spinning stuff, I will use anywhere from 6 to 10 pound. for the leader on my finesse setups. The main line is like Power Pro on most of these. This is 50 pound on this guy here. This is like their regular stuff. You find it at Walmart or whatever. I do have Berkeley X9, which is like a super fine braid on some of these rods that I'm just dabbling with, and it's pretty good. I like it. It's very smooth, but it definitely won't take the abrasion very well. But it doesn't make as much noise when it goes through your rod. So some of the challenges with using Braid-to-Leader is obviously you have to learn a new knot. You have a connection knot, it's a potential failure point. But I think that's just part of the learning curve. You'll figure that out, no problem. It does not take twist at all. Braid will not take any line twist. And so if you're using something super twisty like a fluke or a drop shot or whatever, you want to make sure that you're managing that well. That's really it. Like I said, almost all of these rods have Braid-to-Leader. The two that I don't have Braid-to-Leader on, one is straight braid, it's my frog rod. And then the other one is my cranking rod, which has straight 12-pound fluorocarbon on it. If you haven't tried it yet, definitely consider it. There's a lot of benefits to using Braid-to-Leader. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you think down below. Look at that. Hold on. That's not a bad fish. Come on. See, you can breathe your stuff in and you can catch fish while you're screwing around and doing a video. Not a bad one. Lost my worm though. See, it works. So I was saying, give it a try. It works fantastic. It's definitely one of my favorite things. And let me know what you think in the comments. Have you tried it? Do you not like it? Are you a straight fluoro guy, straight mono guy, straight braid guy? Let me know what you think about Braid-to-Leader, and we'll see you next time.